Out at YouTube. Alright, well, I made this video, this last video, talking about how the LGBT crowd is going to use identity, gender identity, and sexual identity in order to get to kids and you know, get their pedophilia going full steam ahead. And wouldn't you know, it attracted a couple of real good apologists for pedophilia. One of these guys is named Michael Long on YouTube, and he's everything you would imagine from an apologist for pedophilia. So amongst his rhetoric, he's claiming, because he says so, that's why there is no objective moral standards that you can point to. That morality is completely subjective. That morality changes from time to time, from culture to culture, people to people. Okay? And on the surface, you know, that kind of sophistry makes sense, I suppose. That's why it is able to have any mileage or value whatsoever to the degenerate crowd. But anyway, this sort of thing got me thinking, and I did make a response to Michael Long. And the message there was, in the comments, was that, you know, when asked, do you believe in God? Carl Jung replied, I don't believe in God. I know God exists. And it would take somebody some time, I think, to figure out what that means, the difference of what that means. I'll try to come up with a analogy, because it's the same thing with morality. You don't just believe in morality. Morality isn't just some thing, some subjective thing. Morality is known. Man's conscience is known, and morality is written on the hearts of men. And it becomes law. It's how that works. So, my little analogy that I come up with is this. It's like, if you went to a blind man and you said, how do you know that there's a blue sky? You know, how you wouldn't be able to say, because I can see it, right? Or I can feel it, or whatever. But a blind man would know that empirically there is a blue sky, because there has to be a container to this air that he breathes. And without some sort of container, then everything would just float away into emptiness. So, by just the simple acknowledgement of the evidence, a blind man would know that there's a blue sky. He wouldn't be able to explain that to you. What that means, he wouldn't be able to pick up crayons and try and color you one on a piece of paper to represent it, to try and explain it to you. But he would know that there is such a thing as a blue sky. It wouldn't be just something that he believes. He would know it. It's the same way with God or morality or whatever. You know it when you look around at the evidence and you say, you know, nothing can only build nothing. So, because of causality, something has caused this. That means something built this. That means there's this something that you can call God. And so, even like a blind man, you know, if you're saying, you know, explain to us what this God is that you know, or I mean this blue sky is that you know, then the best he can do is what he can do based upon what he's been told, right, by other people. And that would be the same way with someone trying to explain their knowledge of God, right? They're going to have to go off of what they've been told, unless they are a man who can see, right? If you're a man who can see, you can go a step further in your explanations and your descriptions of a blue sky, as well as if you can see, in essence, God, or divinity, and you can relate to it in other ways, like through sight, for instance, then you're able to transcend the information from the divine. It's like you have to earn your way into having certain truths unveiled. Morality is not meant for people who refuse to behave. Morality isn't going to be unveiled for those people. They're going to be blind to morality. They're going to be blind to God. And they can go down these ridiculous pathways of shit happens because I said so, that's why, to explain their degenerate behaviors. But they've never even got to know themselves or their conscience well enough, or confronted the evidence of reality properly to be in a position to even have a fundamental knowledge of God, where they would parrot what other people say. They're so lost and void of the knowledge that they really don't even belong in a conversation about it. Who would want this guy Michael Long making our laws? You know, I guarantee you he'd have pedophilias just fine and dandy, and I mean, give me a break. You know, there can be no civilization based upon his morality, and any morality he has is borrowed from the factual morality, the real one. And that's the case too, that with his sophistry comes the fake shit on top of the real shit. So you have the real divine law, and then you have the sophists that come behind and twist and bend it into their interpretation, into their quote reason, and they reasonably talk themselves into hell, is what they do. You can reason your way right to hell, and that's what they do with their sophistry. They use logical fallacy after logical fallacy, and before you know it, you've got moral relativism. Before you know it, my truth is my truth, your truth is your truth. Before you know it, you know, your dick's in an animal. It's a slippery slope, and that's what's going on. Anyway, that's my analogy there of a blind man and blue sky, and how it relates to the knowledge of God. And then, you know, you can say, well, what do you mean by law? Well, see, if you know yourself and you're able to transcend the divine, then there's no question what's right or wrong. From moment to moment in your life, you'll be able to better handle situations and choose correct pathways for yourself and your conscience, so that you avoid the pitfalls that are before you. That's what the law is. Okay? Then you can say, well, what about all these, you know, the law library and the statutes and everything else? Well, in some respect, yes, that's the law too. But it's not needed once you know yourself and you are able to transcend the divine law. Then that shit's meant for retards. That shit's meant for the Michael Longs and the retards who have to have someone define the rules on a piece of paper so that they can be brought before their peers and held accountable for their retard. You know, that's what it's for. That's how you have civilization, because people refuse to behave. People demand to be like Michael Long, and so you must have a corporation or whatever in place, a fiction in place, that applies standards to these idiots. But you don't need those standards if you make yourself the standard, if you're able to make yourself the standard. Which doesn't mean you're God and you can do whatever you want. It means that you have restraint built in, that you observe reality for what it is, who you are in that reality, and what steps are necessary for you to progress in a positive and goodly manner, which is your programming, which is the whole intention of what's going on here. It's empirically known at this point. When you get to this point, then you realize the battle that's going on. You realize that it's an internal and external battle of right and wrong. It's you yourself battling your own lusts and temptations, and it's the world around you and the social conscience and where that goes in the whole mix too. So your choices are important for yourself. Okay, they're impending upon yourself, and they're also impending upon the civilization around you. You don't realize how your choices and the things you do impact everything else around you in this whole social conscience matrix. So it's very important that you edify and seek to know yourself, and seek to fight for what's good and for what's right, and to know God and to know the divine, and to not turn out like this idiot Michael Long and his crew of pedophile degenerate faggots and apologists for just total debauchery and depravity. Anyway, one last thing, when it comes to law, right? It's like the speed limit might be 35 and you go 36, right? So but nobody got hurt, right? So in that situation, you've operated outside the letter of the law, but you've operated within the spirit of the law, because the spirit of the law is to keep the roads safe so nobody gets hurt, right? So you operated within the spirit of the law because you kept the roads safe, nobody got hurt, but you went outside of the letter of the law. This is sort of the situation that you're going to run into once you, again, reach that point personally where you can transcend the divine, and you'll know the law because it's written in your heart, and you're able to access that because of your state of consciousness and your ability to nullify fictions, and your ability to accept the real situation that you're in. All right, that's it, folks.